guys, you are watching the Winning Play with Sean Gary. I am Sean Gary, your host, national youth speaker, and author. And this podcast simply is designed for other principals, teachers, educators, parents, anybody who deals with youth, deals with students, any youth advocate whatsoever. This is for you. The Win and Play podcast is to bring the win and play. What are you doing that is helping you connect, get through, challenge, build, whatever you're doing to help students, help young people. So if you are one of those individuals, a youth advocate, this is a place to come to get some tools. It might be programming, it might be funding. If you have a nonprofit and you're service to it might be classroom things, it might be principals doing, it's all kinds of stuff. So this is a place to come. You better bring a pen, a pencil, or something, because you're gonna get some nuggets. So this is the Win and Play podcast. And before we get started with today's amazing guest on the Win and Play podcast, I just have to say, before we get started, when it comes to a winning play, the first thing you think of maybe is sports, because they run plays and all that, right? So before we get started, every sport has kind of like a tournament at the end, and you wanna perform and win a tournament, and at the end of the tournament, you win a ring. So the diamond ring that I will be sharing today, because I'm going to get one myself and one for my guests, is this right here. So we're going to eat a ring and let you pick one, and I'm going to pick one, and we're going to eat our ring. You got yours already. I'm going to pick me a good one. This one is, that's watermelon. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. So we are going to do that. But before I start eating mine, I want to introduce to you guys Dr. Kelly. Let me get this bio, because this woman right here, Dr. Kelly Neal, she's got some stuff here. If I read everything, then we'll be here for 2 weeks. So I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read some of these pieces here. So today she serves as a high school intervention specialist for Cincinnati Public Schools. She's a native of Cincinnati, Ohio, where she attended and graduated from Withrow High School University. I know those that went to Withrow, they probably going Withrow or something like that right there. Yep, in 1990. After graduating, she attended the University of Cincinnati and worked as a tutor advisor teaching Spanish for the Upward Bound program. So you know Spanish too?
I do.
Okay. Okay. See? Everybody know that, right? See? All right, let me see. Let's see. Worked as a tutor advisor teaching Spanish for the Upward Bound program. Her educational journey led her to earn degrees from the following fine institutions of higher learning: Central State University with a bachelor's, Xavier University, Master Education, and Christ Temple Bible College for your PhD. So, man, look, right there, I think I can pause and say, we have the right person. We got the right person in front of us today. So I want to, let me open mine up, because I'm going to eat mine too. I want to go ahead and ask you, how did you get into like education? Where did it start? Like your idea, your desire to be in education, I guess, starting from you wanting to go to school, because you got a couple degrees, you got all the alphabet, behind you. So was there a desire to go to college or what was education as a youngster, like young person growing up, was it important?
Well, for me, it was instilled in me by my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother had 15 children on my mom's side.
Oh my goodness, 15.
Yes, and on my dad's side, there were 12.
Wow,
so
oh my gosh.
A plethora of aunts and uncles.
Okay.
Which meant that I had lots of cousins.
Yeah.
And so they were my subjects when we were younger. Everybody knew I was going to be the teacher whenever we played.
Okay.
And it's like God put it in me from a child. And I lived across the street at my grandmother's house, right across the street from Rockdale Academy.
Okay.
And I remember it just like it was that time period when I was growing up, looking out of my grandmother's storm door, as she would call it, and I would say, one day I'm going to teach at that school. Not realizing the power of my words.
Wow,
because in my journey, God had me go back to Rockdale when I got hired.
Wow.
At Rockdale.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's cool. Keep going. So you were doing like you were with all your cousins and nieces and nephews, so you were like pretending like to be the teacher and
Yes.
stuff like that, and assigning homework. Look, you got to F on the test because I don't like you right now. All my favorite cousins, y'all got A's.
It is true. It is true.
So that's funny. It's good to build community within the family because sometimes I think even today, like families are like kind of taken for granted,
It is true.
and it's sometimes a lot of families don't really come together. So it's nice to know that you kind of had that foundation. So tell us what happened from there. Keep going from there.
So, of course, like anything, my grandmother would say, "You're not going to be running around my house." You know, so she allowed us to take a basement room in the basement of her house, and she let us have free reign to paint it.
Okay.
Of course, that started a whole argument because I was like, "It's going to be a school," and everybody else, "It's going to be a clubhouse," but I won.
Right. We gonna make it a school.
So we made it into a classroom, and of course I painted it, and my cousins helped me paint it. We made a whole mess, but it became our place where we would go down, and we really were teaching each other, not
Wow.
realizing that we were teaching whatever we learned in school or whatever we learned from grandmother. Then we would go down in the basement and we would imitate it. And so my grandmother, she didn't get to finish high school because she married early in her years. So
Okay.
she married, I think, at 15.
Wow.
And then from that
Wow.
point on, she had 15 children.
Right.
So
Man.
her thing was, I'm pushing education because I didn't get to finish it. So that you all will go and finish.
Wow.
And she made it such a big thing. And because I honored her so much, that whatever she said, it was like the icing on the cake.
Right.
Grandmother said, "This is what it is. We must go get our education."
Yeah.
And she would say that, you know, a C is good if that's the best you can do.
Okay.
She's like, but a B is better.
Okay.
She's like, and an A tells me you're excellent.
Nice.
And of course, I want to be excellent.
Right.
So I just started like striving for it, and I watched my older cousins, who I admire to this day, they just had the tenacity to go forward, and I watched them go off to college, and I would see my grandmother's joy just watching her get excited about them graduating from high school, and then going off to school and graduating from college. And I remember my mother going to University of Cincinnati and some of my other aunts, but then my one aunt, Sylvia, she lived in D.C. and she worked at Howard University.
Okay.
So she was the comptroller at Howard University.
The comptroller.
The
What's
comptroller.
that?
She controlled the money.
Oh, okay.
So she and then started going back to school to earn her master's degree, and her daughter was graduating to earn her bachelor's degree. My cousin Stephanie.
Real quick, not to cut you off. So who did you just name? Cousin Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
Who else? One of the aunts? Who
Yes,
was
my aunties, all of them had some type of.
So so now you got to make sure that you send a clip like this link, to them so they can watch this episode because you shouted them out, showed them some love.
I definitely will.
And of course, if you're watching, go ahead and like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of these interviews and all this information, this content about education. All right, so we showed them some love. Keep going.
Long story short, my aunt and my cousin ended up graduating together, mother and daughter. They made it in the newspaper at Howard University. And they flew my grandmother. That was our first time flying.
Wow.
Washington, D.C., so that she could witness her daughter and her granddaughter walking down the aisle together.
Wow.
And that's what put the icing on the cake for me because the joy that was in her. Just to go and witness it. I was like, I gotta do it. I have to do it,
That's awesome.
So that is started at home.
That is awesome. Woo, that's powerful. Do you feel like you weren't the only one that kind of like received like, you know what, I too need to make sure that I go to school, or was it more in the family that also kind of went that way? Okay.
Our family is rich in educators, leaders in our family, community leaders. Community icons. It's just so many, my aunts and uncles, and of course my older cousins. I remember going to the YMCA with them, and they were in a group called Trailblazers.
Okay.
And I can honestly say they blazed the trail for all of those that were coming behind them.
Yeah.
So I have others that are PhDs in our families. There are others that are working on degrees. There are others that are leaders, educators, principals, school psychologists.
Nice.
And it just made me want to be a part of what they had already
Just a
done.
natural flow, like it was just what comes next. Like,
Yes.
Okay. So now let's speed up to where you were in school. Your first degree was it not Xavier? Where was Central State?
Central
Was
State.
it okay? Central State. And so, what did you study? What was
I
Central
was in education and school psychology. Yes.
Okay, so you already knew I'm coming to be a teacher.
I already know.
Okay, so when did you start actually using the knowledge and from even your bachelor's degree, or maybe even before you actually got the bachelor's degree, while being a student? When did you actually start getting in like the classroom space, or what kind of space were you in?
Well, up under my uncle Charles Neal, he was like the director over the YMCA's.
Okay.
And so he would give opportunity when I was hired on with Cincinnati Youth Collaborative (CYC. They would let us come and do camp leaders. So,
like the summer camp.
Yeah,
right?
do the summer camp. So of course, anything that allowed me to be in the front,
right.
I wanted it.
Okay.
So my uncle afforded those opportunities as I was growing. Of course, I always had my big cousins who were, my mentors for me, and I just watched, and as I went, I learned. And there were, of course, other spiritual leaders in the church. There were also some of my icons. I just watched them and how they had, control, but they stayed humble, and they led with integrity, and they led with passion and love. And I was like, I want it. It was just like a yearning for it. When I graduated from Central State, I got into social work. I worked at 2020. I worked at Hillcrest Trading School.
Okay.
And then that landed me at St. Aloysius.
Okay.
St. Aloysius is a school that's an independent, what we would call an independent, not a public school, but a charter school.
Charter school, okay.
And it was a school that kind of took me by surprise because it was for children who had been kicked out of the district.
Oh, wow.
Out of the various districts.
So the behavior level was,
it was on.
What you say, cuz?
Yes.
You ain't my mama?
That's exactly what it was. And I had never seen it because growing up, my grandmother and my grandfather, everybody ruled with a strong arm, so I'd never seen to that extreme behavior.
Misbehaving, yeah.
And the first 2 weeks, I called my mom like I just wasted thousands of dollars. I don't know what this is.
He said, I can't do this.
But my mom always would say, you just need to pray.
Okay.
And I remember praying,
Amen.
and I remember God saying these words to me in my spirit. When you get past their faults and you see their needs, you'll conquer your class.
Wow.
And it just registered.
Wow.
And I began to make and build rapport and relationships.
Hold on, that's a bar right there. We got to go back. Let's not skip over that. What did he say again? We need to make sure somebody type this in the chat for all those that are watching. Type this in the chat. Go ahead.
Yes, when you get past their faults and get to their needs, then you will conquer their class. Conquer your classroom.
That's powerful.
And it's what the Lord tells us.
That's powerful.
He doesn't see my faults anymore. He recognizes my needs. And then he deals with me in that place. Yeah. Which then helps me to grow and overcome what my issues are.
That's real good. So, that's real good right there.
I will tell anyone that not a book in the world can make me a teacher. Not a degree. Yeah. Not an institution. But those children at that school taught me how to teach to their pain and taught me how to teach to their adversities, which then led me to become the teacher I am today. Wow. Because it wasn't in a book. Yeah. It was in living color.
Right.
And once they drew me in that way, I never had really too many behavior problems in my classroom that God didn't allow me to conquer it because there was a need behind the behavior. Yeah,
that's huge, man. That's good. Okay, so after there, where were you teaching to lead you up to where you are now?
So I did 15 years at that school that I said,
oh my God.
I didn't think I was going to make it in 2 weeks.
So you have a plethora of knowledge and understanding on dealing with students with behavioral issues and challenges. Wow.
Yes, and it was difficult. I'm not going to say that it wasn't difficult, but when I got it, with the help of God, I got it.
Yeah.
And it gave me compassion. It taught me mercy. It taught me love. And it gave me a strength that restored hope into kids that couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing kids learning.
Nice.
They started picking up, learning, because now they're not looking at me hammering them about things they couldn't control. But they looked at the heart that I poured into them because I could see that their heart was broken.
Yeah.
And once we got that place, then nothing was impossible for them because they began to believe, and we could build off of that hope.
Nice.
So I went from there to Cincinnati Public Schools.
Okay.
And
CPS?
I ended up in Rockdale, and my first lunch was right in front of my grandmother's house.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
You say your first lunch. What you mean?
When I took my lunch break, my grandmother, of course, is no longer living. I went back to the place where I looked out the window, out that door, and said, Grandma, I did it.
Wow.
I'm here.
That's awesome. That's
I'm here.
awesome. Man, that's a special moment for sure.
Yes.
Wow. So you did 15 years at the other place, and then you went straight to CPS after that.
Yes.
And then the first stop was at that school.
Rockdale. So
Wow.
I did 6 years in Rockdale in elementary, and then I followed my principal over to Woodward High School, and I've been there since.
Wow.
And
That's
everybody was like, Woodward?
awesome. Now, why were they saying that about Woodward?
Because Woodward had challenges. And at first I was like, Lord, I've already been there, I've already done that,
So what type of challenges did Woodward have for those that don't know, and myself, because I'm not sure myself? What challenges were there?
Some of the same things that I saw working at St. Aloysius, I saw it in the big kids at Woodward.
So when you say challenges, you're talking about the students' behavior type challenges?
Yes,
Okay.
I saw lots of behaviors, fighting, the lack of respect for authority, not really knowing how to control behavior or how you speak.
Emotions.
Your emotions are everywhere. Not really coming to school for school.
Right.
I'm just showing up because I have to be here.
Yeah.
Which causes an environment to be kind of toxic without the right or proper tools in place for the people who can actually help those kids get back on track.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, Lord, why am I here?
Right. And I was ready, but now that I'm here, I'm looking around like, Lord, are you sure this is where I'm supposed to be?
Why am I here? But
He
showed me, because I need you to be the light.
Nice.
And so to come into a place with other teachers who have said yes, nobody's here just to be here, Sometimes when it's a tough environment, the first thing you want to do is leave.
Yeah.
But when it's a calling, you can't leave.
Right.
You're planted.
Yeah.
So then you have to ask for strategy. You pray for a strategy. And so God has been doing just that. And He actually elevated me to another level because I then worked with children who were multiple disabled. And I never worked in that capacity before.
Wow.
Where I'm working with children who are now incontinent. And I'm like, what happened? Change diapers?
Oh, wow, yeah. Man.
And they're 17.
And this was also saying high school. Wow.
So I was like, I've never been in violation of seeing my children in that way. I don't want to do it. Yeah. But the Lord has a way of bringing you down to a place to be in a place of servitude. So when you're doing a call, it's not about what you want. Right. It's what's needed. And so these kids needed love too. Because this is what the world considers the castaways of society.
Right.
But then, God will plant someone to come in to teach with love and compassion. And here I was thinking I was the teacher, but it was the kids who were teaching me.
Wow. That's awesome.
And they taught me how to have joy. In the midst of all that was going on, when the world seems like this collision, kids who can't walk, kids who can't speak, kids who can't go to the restroom on their own, coming in with a smile every day.
Yeah. Puts it in perspective a little bit like.
Yeah, like now, why should I have an attitude and I have ability?
Right.
And these kids, they don't have ability, but they're dependent totally on someone else to help them.
Right.
And I remember praying. I said, God, I need a theme for my room. I don't even know what to do. What can I, how can I set my room up to service these children? Yeah. And the Lord said, the gate called beautiful. So I had to go back to the word. It was like, what happened at the gate called beautiful? And when I did, I said, okay, God.
Wow.
You're taking me into levels that
I
didn't even see.
Wow.
And he was teaching me that if you say you're going to be my servant, then you got to do my work.
Yeah.
And that means I'm his hands and his feet in the earth. Yeah. To be able to serve those that need to be blessed and brought up to a place of hope. Right. So he said, this is the lame. This is the halt. Yeah. This is the feeble. This is the deaf. This is the blind, the mute. And I was like, oh my goodness. Lord, you have turned on a whole nother vision. Like now I'm not seeing it just so surface. Yeah. But you've given me depths on how to even teach to someone who can't even speak back to me. Right. Who can be in so much pain but can't express it. Wow. And I'm like, Lord, how do I do it? Yeah. But he gave it to me. Wow. He showed me how to do it.
There has to be like a level of patience that you learn that you can have that maybe you don't even know, to be able to wait for, not even just waiting for them to respond, but waiting for any type of cue. Like, are they going to say something? Are they going to look at me? Are they listening? Are they going to write at all? Are they going to, anything? So I can imagine like the level of patience that you developed in that season.
And I'm glad you said developed, because I did not have it. I wasn't equipped with it. But as I went, and oftentimes in the Word of God, you would hear or see that they were healed as they went. Yeah. As I went, I was learning. Like the disciples didn't have it. They didn't have degrees. They didn't have papers or credentials. But as they were going with Christ, they learned as they were going. Yeah. And as I went, he was like walking with me and talking with me. And I'm like, Lord, how do I communicate to a kid who can't communicate back? But a smile is worth a million. Wow. Wow. That smile lets me know you're okay. Right. A grunt, a groan, a blink, a touch. It's worth a million. Yeah. And it became a way on where I learned how to communicate to the invisible. Wow. To speak no longer to the person, but to a spirit. Wow. Now I'm talking straight to your spirit. Wow. Because you can't talk, you don't have an audible voice. Yeah. But now I can feel that you're happy. Or I feel that something's wrong. Yeah. That's the work. Wow. And it developed me to become who I am today. Yeah. It broke me. Wow. It broke me.
That's amazing.
When you hear gracefully broken, that's me.
Wow. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you this. So outside of, because right now you're at Woodward, and before we get to your winning place for the people, what programs or businesses or what clubs, what have you done outside of teaching that either you want the people to know about or I'm asking about that will provide some benefit to them? What's some of the things that you've done outside of school?
Well, one of the things that happened during COVID was that I had to learn how to teach children with multiple disabilities on a computer who can't speak back to me and may not even have the attention span to be able to communicate and sit in front of a screen. But I have to do this for 6.5 hours, however long they tell us to. And once again, I had to seek back for the Lord, like, Lord, I need help. How am I going to reach them? And out of that, the Lord developed Miss Neal's Bow Ties and Tutus Literacy Project.
Say that again to the camera. Say it loud so they can hear you.
Miss Neal's Bow Ties and Tutus Literacy Project.
Nice. Now tell us about that.
And what happened, I began to take literature, especially literature with presentation of African American children in the books. And I would read stories. And I would see some of my kids just rocking. But they were listening. Yeah. They were smiling. And I was like, it's working. Yeah. You know, so in between times of trying to teach regular content. I was like, I need something that's going to be engaging and fun and keep their attention. And they love to hear stories.
Wow.
And so that's what developed it. And I opened it up to other children from the church and the community. And it went from being local to state to global.
Wow.
And so the Lord just helped me take it everywhere I go now, even on missionary trips. I'm able to take books. I'm able to read stories. I'm able to touch lives with children. So.
Nice. That is cool. So what was the ages for that?
I didn't put a limit on it.
It was just anybody who wanted to tune in.
And I just came up with, I'm your intervention specialist, reaching and teaching children from state to state, from globe to globe.
Nice.
That's what it is.
That is really cool. So is that something you're still doing now, or?
I've put a pause on it for right now, but it's under reconstruction. It's coming to you soon.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about that off camera. Okay, yeah. Yes. Nice. Was there support from, like, where did you get, would you say, the most support for that?
Well, I started on social media because we were in COVID. So I just started sending out. I started on Facebook. I would make my own commercials on YouTube. And then I would send it out, and I would put my Zoom address. And next thing I know, kids that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Parents were putting them on. And like you said, people start passing it.
Awesome. Word of mouth.
And I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And I started to see the power of social media.
Yeah.
But also to see the need that children do want to be taught. They love to learn, but they need someone who's going to have the compassion and the passion to pour it into them and have the patience to wait for them to develop.
Yeah. Man, that's good. So you definitely have shared some things that can be beneficial for others. That patience piece, being able to slow down and, you know, and just be patient enough to wait for how to move forward. You know, sometimes we're quick, like we're like, you know, oh, I'm coming today, I'm about to do this, I'm about to do this, and it's like, wait, slow down a little bit, because the level of success where the win is may not be at the speed that you're going.
Exactly.
So you might have to slow down a little bit and make sure that everything that you need is in place as you move forward, so you don't miss anything. No, that's good. Is there anything else that you were doing outside of the classroom?
Yes. Over the past summer, I worked I had the awesome opportunity to work in a multilingual language learning program to work with children who did not speak English. And I didn't know if I was going to get the job. I just took an opportunity when I saw it, and the Lord allowed it to happen.
Wow.
And I was able to use my Spanish to work with the Hispanic families and Price Hill Library and various locations that Cincinnati Public Schools would send us to try to reach and give resources to parents who needed help enrolling their children. And reading stories.
Again. Nice. So where did you get the Spanish from? Because you was talking Spanish earlier, speaking Spanish, and I said my little C, you know, CC. I had a couple years, but it was a long time ago. So where did you get so proficient? Like, where did you get so good at speaking Spanish? Where'd you learn?
Well, my mommy was tenacious. She's, Lord rest her soul, she passed right before COVID, right before COVID onset. But she was tenacious about making sure that I was in a school where I could learn a second language. So I went through Cincinnati Public, and for 19 years of my life, I've taken Spanish.
Wow.
I took it all the way through Central State.
Wow, 19 years. Oh my gosh.
19 years.
Oh my gosh. You know what I do know though? I know English.
But that's good. And guess what? That is still needed because we now are experiencing in our world a lot of migration.
Oh yeah.
So you need someone to teach English as a second language.
I've been to schools where there's like a whole group of people who they seem like they're disconnected. Like when I subbed for like 15, 16 years. And there's times where they're like, yeah, we have a group of students that they leave and they're going to go learn English. And there were struggles in some of those buildings because I'm like, well, what do they do the rest of the day when that person is not teaching them English? What are they doing? Like, even when I subbed, I was like, what am I supposed to say to them or what? And they're like, well, just give them the same handouts or whatever, but they going to just sit there and take it with the other person to help them work through it. And I'm just like, wow. The need for, and I mean, I'm not talking one or two students. One school I was at had students from, I think, Russia and somewhere else where they had like iPads. They had their own iPads. They would walk around and they would translate everything that they needed. Every time the teacher would say something, then they would use the tablet to translate. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
That was really cool. I was like, man, technology today, boy.
Very
I
useful.
couldn't imagine, 30 years ago having to get it. He's like, ooh, well, good luck, child, on getting that education because don't nobody know what you saying and
Right.
you don't know what none of them saying. So,
it's like battle.
man. Okay. All right, so let's shift to these win and plays. So the win and play podcast, this is for some of you the moment that you've been waiting for. I hope you've taken some nuggets already. There's been plenty of things said, but here is the moment of truth. And so we're going to put this thing on the line, and what we have is either 3 tips for principals, 3 tips for parents, and 3 tips for teachers, or 5 tips for one of those. So, and I think you opted for the 3, 3, and 3?
Yes.
All right, so let's hit that first one.
Okay, so if I were to give tips to principals, I would say lead with compassion and mercy, and remember that you're leading people. I would say tip number 2, make sure that your vision is clear so that when you're leading people, everyone is not all over the place, but everyone has the vision at hand. And my 3rd tip would be pour and reap. Remember who you pour into, you have to trust. And then you'll reap as they pour the harvest of other teachers that are becoming like you are.
That's a good one, man. Hold on, we're gonna pause and we're gonna say loud on that one. Go ahead and say that one again. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I said pour and reap. Remember, as you pour, you have to trust who you're pouring into. That what you put into them, you're going to see it come back to you. A lot of times we want to teach and we pour, and then we don't give an opportunity for people to reciprocate or to multiply what has been poured into them. We just stay here.
Right.
But in order for to see the growth, you have to move.
Right.
And allow people to grow and show you that I've mastered what you poured.
And that trust, like you said, you got to trust that they're actually receiving the information and being able to figure out how to use it and then go forth. Again, that patience piece comes in again too, because if you're constantly pouring out, it's like, well, when are you going to give them a chance to chew it, right? I'm giving you all this food, but eventually you got to chew it, then dissect it, eat it and swallow. But it's like that pouring out piece, like you said, there's a level of pause there, wait, and then trust that they actually got it. Because if that trust isn't there, then, these are your 3 points. Go ahead.
But it's good because then, at the same time, even though you poured into me, I may not do it like you did it. So you have to allow room for me to allow God to embellish my creativity with what you poured into me.
Yeah,
so it may not look like how you did it, but it's still going to be
used.
Impactful. Right.
No, that's good. That's good.
So if I were to give my 3 points for teachers, it would be to always teach with love. And also remember that you are over little people. You're leading little people. My tip number 2 is remember you are teaching nations. So what you put into them at this time is a seed, but eventually it's going to bloom and then it's going to be sent out. What you put into them, you are responsible for what comes out of your mouth. Which means you have to control what's in your thoughts.
Yeah.
You gotta control what's in your thoughts. So now if I always remember, God has given me opportunity to teach nations. Right now I see you as a little person, but you're not gonna always be that little person. Right. When I teach you, you're gonna teach your children. Your children are gonna teach their children. It is gonna continue to multiply.
That's good.
So we have to be careful of what comes out of our mouth.
Absolutely. Ooh, that's powerful.
The other
nations. I like that.
Yes. And my 3rd for teachers is that mistakes are what makes great teaching moments. So a lot of times what I see in the classroom, even as a mentor teacher, is I'll see some of my teachers only wanting to teach the kids who get it. News alert, you're not teaching. Because if they already get it, what are you doing?
Right.
So you give the ones that get it to your para, and you work with the ones who don't get it. Now you're teaching.
That's good.
Because you're teaching someone who doesn't know how to do it. And yes, it's difficult. And yes, it causes me to have to go back in and figure out how am I going to meet your needs, because I have to differentiate how I'm teaching. Everybody doesn't get it from me saying it.
That's good.
Everyone doesn't get it from doing it. But some people might have to get it through music. So him listening to his music while he's writing, he's a musical learner.
Right.
So give him his space to go do what he's doing.
Pick it up.
But a lot of times we get out, turn it off. You know, like, no. That's how he learns.
Yeah.
And it's okay. He might be rapping whatever he's learning to that music, and that's how he remembers.
Yeah.
So making sure that if kids are making mistakes, those are the ones you need to work with. Then you're teaching.
Yeah, something you said that I thought was interesting in the classroom setting. You said when the teacher's teaching, there are some students that actually get it, and then those are the ones to let the pair work with, while the teacher then goes to work with the ones who actually didn't get it. I think sometimes you might see the opposite, where you have the teacher just constantly working with the ones that got it, and then the para is struggling work with the ones that don't have it, and it really should be flipped. I like that.
It should be flipped, because the para, you're the one with the license.
She's assistant. He or she is assistant. Right. Yeah.
If you have the expertise, then you should be working with the kids on how to differentiate content that's going to support and meet their needs. That's where behaviors come from, because now she's over here managing behavior because she doesn't have the skill set to teach what you should be teaching. So switch it. Give the parent the one who's already working with the kids who have it, and then you work with the kids who don't have it because you have the ability to teach it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
For my parents.
All right, parents. Parents, here we go. Listen up, parents.
Number one, parents, you are the power source. Your children are your biggest investment. So your love has to be irresistible, which means what you say, they cherish. So if you say, you don't have to listen to the teacher, you do what I say, you're tearing down nations. Because now, it's not, that doesn't go for the teacher, but they're not listening to the principal, they're not listening to the police officer, they're not listening to the pastor, they're not listening. That goes a long way. So your love for them is to discipline them.
Yeah.
Not with belts and chains, but teaching proper manners, responses, and teaching them how to give an answer without violence or without using their words incorrectly, but teaching and disciplining them how to have control over themselves.
Yeah.
If I control myself, then the whole room is controlled.
Right.
That's what we teach is discipline.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Number two, train before you sin. So if the word of God tells us to train up a child in the way that they should go, that when they're old, they should not depart from it. So I can tell who's been trained on day one of school.
Wow.
The person who comes in, takes a seat, hangs up their coat, or I know I'm not going to have a problem out of you.
Right.
But the one that's already up, fidgeting, feeling, whatever, excuse me, they're all over the place. I can tell. We got to work on discipline for this kid. What does that look like? Teaching procedures, teaching rules, teaching self-control in your own space without violating someone else's boundaries, including your teacher.
Right.
Not just getting up. Nope. Who gave you permission? We learned that at home. Don't warm my refrigerator without permission.
Right.
You're not allowed in the living room without taking your shoes off.
Yeah.
Make sure you wash your hands before you.
Yep. Start cooking and doing something in the kitchen. Yeah.
So those things are critical. Train before you sin. And number three, stay engaged. Don't just send your kids to a building because you don't know who's
like a daycare.
Right.
You mean they can't just drop them off and then never worry about nothing else even after they pick them up? Just
you gotta stay engaged. You have to stay engaged. You should know what power school is. You have to get on it. You have to learn. I'm not tech. Learn it. Learn it with your children. Have your children teach you, and you teach your children. Come into the classroom and meet the teacher.
Right.
Everybody in there is not A1. Sometimes your kids are not lying.
Right.
Sometimes you need to come in and feel the energy of the room.
Yeah.
So you can say,
this is my kid's teacher. Hold on. How long
I
you been
felt
teaching?
it, right. And then you should know what they are learning, so that they're not just struggling by themselves, but they actually have someone that is proud of them or shows interest which gives them power to say, oh, I showed my mom, she was excited. You know, my mom asked me when I came to the door, like, did you do your homework? My dad saw that I made the honor roll, made a big deal out of it. Those things matter to children. Because if you don't give it to them at home, they come to school and they don't care.
Right.
Nobody's going to give me a thumbs up. Nobody's going to post it on social media. Nobody's going to pay me $1 for an A.
Yeah.
But if the parents make it a big deal because they're engaged, they call the teacher, so-and-so told me you did this, that. You know what? You're right. Come on in. Let me meet you.
Right.
Go to the parent-teacher conference. Come and see what's going on in the school. And your kids feel empowered.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good, man. That's perfect. I hope that those of you that are watching were able to take a couple nuggets out of here. There was definitely some winning plays that I heard myself that I totally agree with, stuff that I've seen as well in the classroom. So, man, Dr. Kelly, I appreciate you taking time today to meet with me and to jump on this episode and pour out for students. Ultimately, this is all for the students. This is not for my glory or her glory or your glory. This is ultimately so that we can become better at serving students and serving youth. So I just thank you, man. That's all I have. Did you have anything else you want to say to the people? Anything that you want to tell them that's coming soon about something that you may be doing or working on? And then if they need to get in contact with you, what information would you want to share with them if they want to get in contact with you?
They could reach out. I'm at Woolworth Career Technical High School. Of course, you could just call the school and they can put you in connection with me. But what I would say is just keep a book in front of your children. Help them, if it's nothing but 5 to 10 minutes a day, to read something. If it's news, they need to be engaged. Our African American children especially need to know what's going on, not just in the hood, but locally, globally, worldwide, so that they can have good conversation and take their place in society. Also teaching your children that they have a voice, so that our kids aren't slumped down in the back of the classroom, but they feel confident that their words have value and they mean something. So that's my words too.
Awesome. Man, I love it. I appreciate it. And that is it for the Win and Play podcast, guys. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. There's plenty more episodes and shows coming soon. It's your boy, Sean Gary, National Youth Speaker and author, here with Dr. Kelly. And we are out of here. Peace.